We are honored to have lead these discussions licensed attorney and professional fiduciary Darby Jones, a member of the Florida and Maryland Bar. Darby serves on the Executive Council of the Real Property Probate Trust Law section of the Florida Bar and is a registered professional guardian. Darby is also the founder and executive director of the Professional Fiduciary Council of Florida. Before I hand it over to Darby, I do want to take just a moment to express our deep gratitude to our very own Aging Academy Queen. Darby, you've been an invaluable partner helping to educate and support the 50+ community as they navigate the what ifs and the what's next of life's journeys. Thank you so much. And like so many here in Florida, Darby has faced some significant challenges in recent weeks, yet she continues to move mountains to help others. Darby, your resilience and dedication inspires us all, and we are so grateful for everything that you do. I'm especially grateful to have you with us today to share highlights of the incredibly helpful information and resources that you've provided over these past 9 months. In today's session, 5 Steps to Aging with Confidence, I know we're all eager to hear your insights. Give us a recap. What do we need to know? Those 5 steps to aging with confidence.
Well, first of all, get a generator.
Check.
Gosh, thank you very much for your kind words, Michelle, of course. And I've enjoyed every minute of this. It's been a pleasure for me to be able to share so many of the experiences that I've had over the last 20+ years in working in and around fiduciary services and with aging populations, and just to share practical, real tips that I think can help all of us as we age, because aging, it's everywhere. I don't care where you live or who you are, it's going to happen. And so hopefully these episodes have helped you with not 30,000 feet up, but really tangible help. And I'm looking forward to next year. I've got lots of great ideas for episodes. So send in your support to Michelle and the AARP of Florida so that we can keep the ball rolling and give you even more confidence in the years ahead. So thank you, AARP. Thanks. And I'm here on behalf of the Professional Fiduciary Council of Florida, which is a wonderful resource for people who are searching for a fiduciary to serve in a variety of capacities. And I also have about 6 pages of information that we got to go through. So I'm going to dive right in. And if you have any questions, of course, you've got the chat feature. I'm certainly available anytime to help with any questions or help that you might need as well. So for those of you who have been watching all of these episodes, I think that you are probably in a pretty good situation and pretty well equipped to move forward in making some important decisions and getting some important things done and completed to help you age with confidence and move forward with confidence. And if not, I'm going to make reference to several of the episodes here today for those of you to go back to and listen for more detail. We're going to kind of go as an overview today, but many of the episodes have much more detail and specific information that you can always get at the agingacademy.com website. All the past episodes are there. So as you know, I was an estate planning attorney, I was a trust officer, and now I am a professional fiduciary. So I have been serving in and around fiduciary work as a power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, personal representative, guardian, trustee, in a variety of ways for many, many years. And I want to be clear that today, in all of our episodes, I am really sharing with you my personal experiences. I am not here giving legal advice, and I'm not here to give investment advice. This is truly just my experiences to try to help you navigate some of the tough decisions and tough situations that all of us are going to have to face. So the 5 boxes, or the 5 areas that I think we all should really be thinking about globally. Again, there's a lot of detail in each one of them, but the first one is going to be getting your estate plan, or what I'm going to call your life plan, in order. Number 2 is going to be building a team. Number 3 is going to be assessing your living arrangements. Number 4 is going to be, is your house financially sound? And number 5 is communication. So let's start with the first one, estate planning. The best gift that you can give your family is not your grandmother's china, and it's not your house, and it's not your 401k. It's a good estate plan. That's the best gift that you can give your family or your heirs. It's not about the big items. It's not about the car or the stuff or the money. It's really to prepare for your future. Estate planning is probably not the, I wish we had a different name for it, because when you say the word estate planning, it makes everyone think of death and dying and what do I do with my stuff at my death? But the truth of the matter is that estate planning is really to take care of today, from this moment until the date of death. Yep, we can take care of your stuff after death, but it's during this period of time right now that your estate plan, your life plan, is so important. And many of you have heard me say this more than once. The power of attorney is the most important estate planning document. And it goes away at your death. So it's only valid during your lifetime. And it is the most important document. And I'm going to say that several times throughout today, but keep that in mind, that estate planning isn't just about who gets your stuff at your death. It's about during your lifetime, your healthcare surrogate, your power of attorney. So let's talk about why so many of us don't get our estate planning done. Is it the cost? Are we worried about how much it's going to cost to go sit with an attorney? Okay. How many of you out there spend a lot of time and research on what washing machine to buy, or what car to buy, or what Christmas gifts to get? So if you're that worried about items like that, please use that same intensity and that same concern about getting your estate plan done. It's not about the expense. Estate planning isn't a product. It's a service, and it's a consultation. So don't be nervous about how much the person charges per hour. It's more of a consultation for you to learn. What do these documents mean? What do they do? What don't they do? And so you will walk away empowered in understanding that you are now protected. You now have an advocate named in your documents to take care of you if anything were to happen. And it's well worth the cost. Okay, so if it's not the cost, maybe it's, I don't have anybody to name. Okay, so why do I get an estate plan done? I don't have any kids. I don't have a spouse. Why do I need to worry about it? And that is an issue. And if you go to the very first episode that we had, and it was first for a reason, because it's so important. It's what is a fiduciary, and how to find one, and what do they do, and how important it is to have someone in your life that's going to be able to step in and take care of you and your affairs if for whatever reason you're not available. It could be a temporary thing, a temporary illness, but you need somebody to come in and be able to care for you. So what is your fiduciary? If you don't have anybody, don't let that be a reason not to get your estate planning done. And today we're going to talk about those orphaned adults out there, those solo agers, of whom there are many, how to resolve that issue. Okay, so it's not about the cost. It's not because I don't have anybody, but I'm kind of confused about this whole estate planning. I keep, I don't know that I really need it. I don't really have that much. I have a simple estate. Why do I need to go to an attorney and pay a bunch of money for documents? Well, there's an episode that we just did recently called Demystifying Estate Planning. And I encourage all of you to watch that. And it takes each document and it explains what they do, what they don't do, what you do need, what you may not need, how to select an attorney, what to know before you go to an estate planning attorney. It's very important. And I don't want you to get caught up in the shiny objects of, oh my gosh, we have to avoid probate, or oh my gosh, we have to have a trust, or things that may make it seem far more complicated than it really is. Don't let that scare you away from getting an estate plan. And don't let the fact that you may have a simple estate be a reason not to get your estate plan, because really Remember, it's the power of attorney that's so important. It doesn't matter how many zeros you have on your financial statement, whether you need a power of attorney or not, you need one. And then lastly, okay, so all of those boxes are checked, but I have all my accounts are pay on death or transfer on death. That's POD or TOD. So yeah, I've taken care of it. I'm going to avoid probate. Everything's going to go automatically to all my heirs. That's not an estate plan. That doesn't do anything to help you while you're alive. Remember, healthcare surrogate, power of attorney, that's for while you are alive. That you have transfer on death or pay on death on your accounts does nothing to help you in your life plan. So that is not an estate plan. For example, let's say you think you've got it all figured out. All I have is a house, I have an annuity, and I have an investment account. I have 3 daughters. I'm going to put my house transfer on death to Michelle. Okay. My annuity, I'm going to have Chandra be the beneficiary of my annuity. And I'm going to have Robin be the beneficiary of my investment account. That way I'm good to go. Nobody's got to worry about anything. That is so wrong. And that is so not a plan. So Michelle is going to get, what did I give you? The house? Michelle's getting the house. She's the big winner here because she's going to inherit that house at today's value. So I may have bought the house 50 years ago for $1,000. Today it's worth $500,000. She's going to inherit that house worth $500, the value as of my date of death. No taxes are due, no capital gains are due. Big win for Michelle. Chandra, who was always a problem, Chandra is going to get the annuity and she's going to be very upset. That annuity is going to come home to roost and she's going to owe a lot of taxes. And that benefit of that annuity is not going to be what you may have thought it was going to be. Robin is going to get my investment account. And again, she's a big winner. It's going to be at the date of death value, no capital gains owed. So what I thought was a pretty fair distribution ended up being far from fair. And the other challenge with that is, let's say those are 3 different bank accounts with 3 different names. What if I, during my lifetime, need help with paying bills? And let's say Chandra is my power of attorney. How now is she going to know which account to use? If she uses the account that has Michelle as a beneficiary, then that's going to take money away from Michelle. If she uses the account where Robin's the beneficiary, it's going to hurt Robin. So that's not fair either. So don't think that putting pay on death or transfer on death is really the answer or the easy fix that some people like to make you think it is. It's always best to keep everything just in your name alone and let your will take care of the distribution at your death. Estate planning takes time, okay? What are your goals? What are your true 3 fears? Fear of running out of money, fear of being a burden on your family, fear of not having anything left for your heirs. Those are the fears. And that's what estate planning, life planning, is going to address. It's not about the money. It's not about your grandma's china. It's about your fears and how to resolve your fears and give you the confidence that you have your affairs in order. So have those hard conversations with that attorney. That's what it's about. It's a consultation and a conversation. Talk about the possible incapacity of your loved one or your spouse. Talk about perhaps gambling debt of your children. Talk about the terrible lady that your son married that you don't want her to get any money. Talk about all of those things that are difficult to admit or to share, but because that's what the attorney is there for. Plan for the here and now, not for the what if. What if all these things are going to happen? You can't plan for every what if in the world. Plan for the here and now. Where are your children now? Where is your spouse now? Where are you now? What is your situation today? Because you can always update your estate plan. Remember to update it. When and why? Update it if someone important is named in your document, your fiduciary is named, and that fiduciary may pass away. That fiduciary may not be the right person any longer. That's a good reason to update your plan. If you get divorced or remarried, that's a good time to update your estate plan. Any important event like that, that impacts a beneficiary or someone named in your documents, that's a time to update. As a fallback, you should probably give it some thought, maybe every 5 years or so. There may be some tax issues or maybe some retitling of your assets that need to be addressed to coincide with your estate plan. Don't put your funeral wishes in your will, okay? Because your will may be hidden in some cabinet somewhere that nobody can find, and we're all trying to plan your funeral and we don't know what your plan is. So no, don't put your funeral plans in your will. Make sure you communicate that to your healthcare surrogate or your power of attorney in advance. If you're going to divide your estate among your 3 daughters, like my 3 daughters, don't make it a dollar amount. Make it a percentage, because your estate's going to be a different size 10 years from today, 20 years from today. So you can't assume that if I give each of them $100,000 or $10,000, that that's going to mean the same thing 10 or 20 years from today. But if you give a percentage, it's always going to be, the ratio is always going to be the same. Your estate plan, your life plan, is also going to name a guardian in case you do become incapacitated. You don't want the court to just Rolodex a professional guardian and name somebody. You can actually name someone in advance. So if you ever did need a guardian, if you ever did become incapacitated and didn't have an appropriate power of attorney, you've got someone named that the court can turn to. And again, your healthcare surrogate, power of attorney, super important. All of that takes time, takes thought. And that's why meeting with that attorney, not rushing it, is the right thing to do. Don't call the week before you're going on the cruise, okay? Don't call the week before your trip to Europe. That's not the time to start trying to get your estate planning done. We're going to pull up the stick figure slide. For those of you that missed my stick figure episode, please go back and check it out. This is important stuff. This is a very high level slide here. And I'm going to answer very quickly, what is probate? I get that question a lot. So if you see the 3 circles, in my view, the one on the left is the single person. And then the one on the right has the big K in it. So on the left, there are only 3 ways today to own property. Okay, own anything: helicopters, real estate, CDs, cars, businesses. There's only 3 ways that you can own something. So the one on the left is I own it in my name alone. It's mine. It's titled in my name. I own it. I have possession of it. It's mine. The middle circle are joint assets. Those are assets that I own with someone else. I have my daughter on my bank account, and we're going to talk about that later. I have a business with a partner. I own an airplane with another person. I own real estate with 3 other people. Those are all jointly owned assets. And that joint asset ownership can get very complicated. But for purposes of today, just it's joint property. The third bucket is a big K, standing for contracts. This today is probably where people's biggest bucket is. 50, 75 years ago, we didn't have so many IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, insurance, and so forth. But today, a lot of people have assets in these entities, and these are contracts. IRA, during your lifetime, you have signed who's going to get your IRA at your death. You had designated the beneficiary. You've written it down in a contract. 401k, you've written down who is the beneficiary of your 401k. Trust, a trust is a contract. You've written down in there who's going to get your assets at your death in the trust. Insurance, who's the insurance? Who's the beneficiary of my life insurance? So those are all contracts. So think about it. Do an inventory in your head of your assets and how they're titled. And you will now know that probate, your will only have control over your stuff alone. That little bucket on the left, that's just you. That's what your will controls. If you have joint assets, it's going to go automatically to the joint owner. If you have contracts, it's going to go by what that contract says. So if I have a big fat trust and I'm giving all the money to my boyfriend down the street, and I have a will that says I want everything to go to my 3 daughters, my 3 daughters are not going to get anything because the will has no control over that contract. The contract trumps, and it's going to go to whatever that contract says, whatever that insurance beneficiary says. So keep that in mind. It's a really important slide. And again, we talked in more detail about this in the Demystifying Estate Planning episode, which was recent. So probate, that's what probate is. It controls the assets in your name alone. And probate is your friend. Probate is like, it's like having a football game without referees. You kind of like having referees. You like having the court supervise the process of a person's will because the court's going to keep you on task and it's going to keep you doing what you need to be doing. Trusts are private. There's no court supervision of a trustee. So it's not always the mecca or the quicker or the faster or cheaper way to go. In fact, if I have a house, I have a car, I have an RV, I have a boat, I have a rocket ship, I have to sell all that stuff. Someone's going to have to sell all that stuff when I die, right? Whether it's in a trust or whether it's in my name alone, it still needs to get valued, sold, distributed, appraised, everything. It's not any faster that it's in a trust. It's not any faster that it's in the estate. It's the time it takes to do all of that. Tax returns, financial statements. It's work, regardless of whether the asset's in a trust or not. Okay, so we're going to get to our bucket number 2. Gosh, I better keep moving here. But that was an important one. Estate plan is important. Bucket number 2 is building a team. Okay, so be ready. Okay, you got to be ready. Be ready for medical events. Be ready for financial challenges. Be ready for healthcare needs. Be ready. This is your life plan, your estate plan. So medical events, we go in great detail about how to prepare yourself and how to manage medical events in an episode called Mom Fell and Broke Her Hip. Now what? We have a great episode about financial challenges in an episode called Watch Out for Dangerous Financial Decisions. And we have a great episode about healthcare needs when it says, again, my mom fell and broke her hip. So who is your trusted contact? Who is your ICE in case of emergency, ICE? Who are your ICE contacts? How to deal with hospitals. What if you have a problem at a hospital? What if you go to a hospital? Who's there to advocate on your behalf? Who is it that's going to get called? How are they going to get called? And if they do get called, do they know what to do? Do they know anything about you, your health, your medical past? Do they know how to deal with difficult ER situations? Do they know how to deal with, perhaps issues with the staff at the hospital? How to get help? How do you get a caregiver to come get involved with the home hospital stay and when you are discharged and how to be home and manage the prescriptions? It's always better to prepare for these issues in advance. And again, we delve into a lot of that in that episode and how to have a caregiver walk with you through that hospital stay, not just for the care, for your care, but whoever might be your power of attorney who may live at a distance or may not really understand the medical procedures that are happening. But if you have a care manager or a caregiver involved, you've got someone who's been there and done that and can help make that experience not be so stressful. There's no right or wrong about your life plan or your estate plan. It's your life. Everyone here today has a different bucket of issues, bucket of concerns, and bucket of needs. I'm here just telling you from my experience, but the worst thing you can do is not have a plan. So what do you want to be when you grow up? Remember getting asked that when we were kids? What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, how are we supposed to know? We're 7 years old. What the heck? So same thing now. Who do you want to be when you get old? I know we hate that word old, but I think about it probably more than I ought to, probably because of the work I've been doing for so long. But who do you want to be? We can think about our grandparents, we can think about our parents, we can think about people we know who are aging and who are getting old. Of course, we're never as old as they are, but how do you envision your life? How do you envision your world? And prepare for that now. And there's lots of ways to do it. And there's lots of things that you can do to make that journey doable and much less stressful. There's an example I want to share, again, about those poor orphaned adults and solo agers out there. And this is going to, I hope, trigger some thoughts. There's a hairdresser that I received a call from recently, a good friend of mine, and she has taken care of a lady for probably 25 or 30 years. And the lady walked into the hairdresser recently, and she was really not able to even articulate what she wanted. She could hardly manage her wallet or her purse. And everyone in the salon was very concerned about this person, obviously, including the hairdresser herself. And what was so telling was the hairdresser was so brokenhearted. God, I've got goosebumps. So brokenhearted because she knew this woman for 30 years and had no idea who to call. She had no idea who to call to help this person. And if she sent her to the hospital, who is there to notify? But we can fix that. Okay? Think about that situation in your life. Who is it around you that you want to notify? And who do you want to have give that information to so that if anything were to happen, they know who to call? You're going to need people around you. You're going to need a team. And that team can be family, your attorney, CPA, financial advisor, banker, doctor, neighbors, friends, hairdressers, your bingo partners, your care managers. It can be a fellow volunteer at AARP. It can be your bridge group. It can be a birthday lunch group. It can be a lot of things. But I want you to think about it. Make it your job to think about being in that hairdresser appointment and nobody knowing who to call. Now, it could be something in your wallet. It could be a red envelope in your wallet, which in fact, those are available. In fact, the Professional Fiduciary Council of Florida has little red emergency cards that you can put in your wallet with your emergency contacts and on your fridge. But I want y'all to think about that. And that's a super easy way to have confidence that if anything were to happen to you, the right person's going to get called. Okay, bucket 3, assess your living arrangement. Okay, again, we had great episodes about this issue too, in much more detail, but do you want to age in place? What is aging in place? Does it mean you have to stay in the very same house? No, you can age in place anywhere. It doesn't have to be the very home you've been living in for the last 30 years. You can move to a villa, a condo, a one-level uh, unit somewhere that's more feasible for aging in place. And the time to make those decisions is now. It's not at an emergency. It's not, after you've had the fall, you've broken your hip, and now you can't go up the 3 flights of stairs in your townhouse. Okay, think about it now. And think about, again, envision your life, envision your aging, and what's going to make it easier and convenient and less stressful for you. You want to downsize, right size, as they say, what to do with your stuff, how to get help. Again, we had an episode called Conquering Clutter. And we had a professional move manager who walked with you and spoke about how she can help with inventorying and packing and sorting and moving and all of that. She's fabulous. Or your facility. Do you want to consider moving into an assisted facility or a continuing care community? We talked about all of those options. What are their licensing? What care do they really have or not? Is it a good idea or not? Can you self-insure and stay home? What are the costs? What are the risks? What are the benefits? Um, are you a joiner? Are you a social person? Or are you an introvert? You know, what facility, what living arrangement is going to be best for you? The good news is there are a lot of variety of living arrangements today than there were 20 years ago. So that's only going to increase. You know, group homes and specific communities for aging, and HOAs are getting more involved with services for solo agers, which I think is a great idea. In fact, I think AARP has a prototype experiment going on with a community where they're going to offer rides to doctors and the daily calls and so forth.
What's
Which I think,
HOA? What is HOA?
homeowners association. Sorry, homeowner association. I'm glad you don't know what that is because they can be kind of a pain sometimes. But yeah, homeowner association. That's when you live in sort of a congregate living, like a condo or a community where you have to pay dues and so forth. And who's going to pay for your long-term care? There's only 3 ways to pay for your long-term care: privately, long-term care, or government benefits, which is Medicaid. Okay. Medicare does not pay for your long-term care. So there's 3 things: Medicaid, which is government, that means you're impoverished, long-term care insurance, or privately. And you may be happy to know that you're quite capable of funding your long-term care. Again, that episode, we do go through the costs and expenses of self-insured and the ins and outs of long-term care and the benefits, or whether you should or shouldn't have it. So I recommend you taking that episode at heart. That episode's called "Don't Put Me in One of Those Places." So please watch that if you have any concerns about what I've just spoken about. Facilities can be really tricky. You know, there are all kinds of different facilities, all kinds of different licenses. There's all kinds of reasons to move into one or move into a different one or not move into one. So take that decision very carefully. Don't just listen to the ad on TV that everything is going to be hunky-dory. You have to do it on your own. Remember, everybody here has a different life, different personality, different lifestyle. Okay, number 4. I'm gonna keep moving here. Number 4, there's so much to talk about. This is why we got to have next year. Is your financial house in order? Okay, this is another really important issue, especially near and dear to my heart because I've dealt with this for so long with people's finances. The episode that talks about a lot of this is called Dangerous Financial Decisions. I encourage you again to go back and watch that one. Know your financial house. What accounts do you have? What's the value of those accounts? How are they titled? Okay. Now remember that stick figure. Remember that chart. Okay. How are your accounts titled? Do you have a joint account with your daughter at the bank? Bad idea. Keep it in your name alone and have your daughter be the power of attorney. That means she doesn't have ownership of that account, but she has authority, check writing authority. So if you want someone to be able to pay your bills for convenience, which makes perfect sense, that's great. That's what a power of attorney is for. But if you put her on as an owner, a joint owner, then if she gets in a car accident and runs over a 30-year-old wage earner with 3 kids, there's going to be a big lawsuit. And your checking account is going to be brought into that lawsuit because she's on it as an owner. So you've got to be aware that when you put someone on an account of yours, you've just opened yourself to all of their liability and vice versa. So please don't fall into the trap of just jointly titling accounts. That's not the right way to go. That's what a power of attorney is for. What's the value? What's your budget? I know all of us hate to do budgets. I'm one of those as well. But the truth is, at this season of our life, we have very different budgetary concerns. Okay, so it's not so much that the income or the up of our bell curve of our income. We're now on the tail end. We're on the outflow of our assets, which is where a budget is even more important. So make sure that you think about what kind of budget you're willing to work with and to pay attention to. Super important.
Okay, then repeat that.
Also, you want to reassess your financial advisory relationship. Because remember, again, episode 1, fiduciary duty. Absolutely make sure that your fiduciary, your investment advisor is a fiduciary, a real fiduciary. Everybody calls themselves a fiduciary nowadays, but you want to make sure they're a real fiduciary. What are their true credentials? Have them explain exactly how they get paid, because that's a good way to find out whether they're really a fiduciary or not. Check them on broker check. And in the resources you're going to get after this session, you're going to have a website and FINRA to go to check the background of any financial advisor. And make sure they've been doing it for more than 5 minutes, okay? Because you are in a different season of your life. Most financial advisors want to go after people who are making money, right? That's where they're going to make money. We're at a different place. We're at more of a tax strategy and an outflow. And so a lot of advisors may not find that as a very profitable relationship. So you want to make sure that the financial advisor you have has experience and knowledge about this season of your life, of your financial life. And make sure they're not just selling products, but that they're managing your portfolio. And don't get investment advice from insurance people. That is not investment. Okay, how to protect yourself from scams, exploitation, and vulnerability. Okay. Well, first of all, how to protect yourself from vulnerability is your estate plan, your life plan. Get that power of attorney in place so someone can step in at some point and protect you if you need it. Watch out for scams and exploitation. If you get a call, a text, an email from someone promising you all kinds of gain, that's a red flag. Okay. If you get a call, email, scam, text, threatening a loss, oh my gosh, you're just about to lose your computer, that's a red flag. Okay. You've got to use your common sense. Some of the biggest companies that these people use in order to pretend that they're legit are like Geek Squad, Amazon, banks, Microsoft, sweepstakes, Verizon, apps. You know, you just have to, if it comes from one of those institutions, immediately be leery, delete it. If any of those companies have any issues with you, they will be getting in touch with you. Otherwise, not on a text or WhatsApp or a email. Okay. And that's super important. I worry about that for myself. I mean, I'm 67 years old now, and I'm wondering when I'm 80, how am I gonna, I have a hard enough time now recognizing whether it's a scam or not, or whether the email is legit or not. Imagine when I'm 80, how much more vulnerable I'm going to be. I truly worry about that. And I don't know what the answer is, but get smart about it now. So, and let's try to keep up on that. And I will try my best to help you all keep up on that. But that is a real fear to me. Now, AARP has a fraud watch helpline. Okay, I'm going to give it to you now, but it'll also be in the resources in the follow-up. And that number is 877-908-3360. 877-908-3360. I think somebody might be able to pop it up in the chat. There we go. Okay, now to my other very favorite slide, our beanie weenies. Okay, I even have them here in the background. Beanie weenies. this is my conversation about investments. I want to break it down into just plain English, okay? If someone handed you $100,000, and this isn't a scam or an email, okay? Let's say someone really does hand you $100,000. What are you going to do with it? Okay. There are only 5 things that you can do for now on planet Earth. It's cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, and commodities. That's all there is out there. Cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, and commodities. And commodities are things like crypto, gold and silver, and you don't want to be there. We're all too old for that. Okay, so cash, stocks, bonds, and real estate. That's the only 4 things to invest in. Okay, so what do? Bookstores are full of books about how to invest, how to get rich, how to whatever, but there's only 4 things. So don't get distracted by the get rich quick or the promise of things that sound too good to be true. So how do you buy a share of stock? Okay. Let's compare it to grocery shopping. There's share of Coca-Cola stock can be bought in a lot of ways, right? So a can of Beanie Weenies can be bought in a lot of ways. I can go to 7-Eleven. I'm assuming everybody has 7-Eleven. I can go to Costco. I can go to Publix. I could buy it online. I can buy it at Aldi or a wholesale place. There are a lot of ways I can get my Beanie Weenies, but every can is going to be a different price, right? Some are retail. I'm going to pay a high amount for a can of Beanie Weenies at 7-Eleven. Whereas if we went to a wholesale, I'm going to have to buy a case, but they're going to be a lot cheaper. Same can of Beanie Weenies. So if you compare that to a share of stock or a bond, there are a lot of places you can buy stocks and bonds. There are a lot of financial advisors out there that will help you buy stocks and bonds. But which one is the best for you? Which one has the fiduciary duty to not overcharge or have a conflict of interest? So again, go back and watch my financial decisions episode, and we get into that a lot more in detail. But watch out for shiny objects like reverse mortgages, annuities, life insurance products. Be careful. The aging community, in which I am a member, are targeted for these kind of products because they know you're scared. They know you're worried. They know you're looking for answers and something safe. So they're going to market to that button. So be careful. Okay. Our last bucket. Good timing here. The last bucket I have is communication. I know that sounds not that sophisticated, but it is so important to communicate. You've built your team, right? We've talked about building your team, whoever that is. It doesn't have to be a big team. It could be a 1-person team, but you're going to need a team. And what does that team look like? And what do they need to know? Okay, when you have your estate plan, your life plan put together, you want to talk to them about it. You don't need to share it with them. They don't need to have copies of the documents, but you want to say what you want. What does your old age look like? Do you want to age in place? Do you want to have your dog with you? Do you want to be in that particular neighborhood? You know, what are you allergic to? Who's your doctor's name? How do you want to be buried or cremated? How all the things that we don't typically sit around and chat about, you're going to have to make this your job. Communicate what it is you want. So if someone had to all of a sudden take care of you, that they know how to do that so that you're not going to live the rest of your life in misery, wishing that you had made a better plan or communicate with people about more of the details that make you happy. Do you want to have a pet bird? Do you want to have a view of the water? Do you want to, whatever, again, we're all different. Everybody here today is different. And it's important. Okay, it's important. Our world shrinks as we get older. So that little world is very important, all those little details. Now, the good news is, I hope I'm not being too Darby Downer today, but the good news is that there are lots of resources. There are lots of things out there to help us through this aging process. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to be careful about those resources and make sure they're appropriate, and keep watching this show and I'll help you with that. But we have things, and this is also resources for those of you out there who are caregivers now, who are taking care of your parents or a loved one or a spouse. You have adult daycare out there. You've got home modifications that can be done that may make your life a lot easier. There are caregivers out there that do great work and who can be trusted. Don't hire caregivers that are just friends or someone down the street or from an unlicensed company, or from a company that doesn't have the caregivers are not actually employees. Be very careful of who you hire. But when you get the right fit, it's awesome. It is awesome. There are care managers. Again, we had an interview with a care manager on one of our episodes, and they can bring such a service to you, and it can be a one and done. Have a care manager come in, they can do an assessment of your home, they can do an assessment of your medications, they can do an assessment of your care needs, or the care needs and assessments of the one you're caring for, and help you with a plan. You're not alone. There are lots of people and services out there, and the care managers come from the Aging Life Care Association, which will also be in our resources. And I speak highly of them often. There are professional fiduciaries like myself. California has a huge association of professional fiduciaries. Florida, Professional Fiduciary Council of Florida. Arizona has an organization that supports professional fiduciaries, and other states are also in line to get that going. Your attorney may know someone. Your CPA may know someone. We have professional move managers who are specifically trained to deal with older people who have collections or who have maybe more stuff than they should, and who might need more hand holding or more white glove type services to help you deal with the clutter or the downsizing or the right sizing. We have telemed, and we have life alerts. Don't be afraid of life alerts. I think about it all the time. I'm by myself. I could slip and fall and hit my head, and those life alerts now are not as ugly as they used to be. They actually look like a little Fitbit, so they're not like the big thing around your neck. But anyway, I want to stop now. I haven't had a chance to watch the chat, so I'm going to stop now and open it up for questions or concerns or thoughts for next year. I won't see you until after all the holidays. So happy holidays to everybody. And again, get a generator before hurricane season next year.
Smart. Darby, there were a couple of questions as they relate to finances. One of those questions was, and I assume they're asking for your personal opinion on if you are married, should you have a joint account, or should the married individuals have their own individual accounts?
That's a good question. I think it's probably not a bad idea to have both. But generally speaking, if you're married, having a joint account is really all you really need. On the other hand, if you have a trust, then you definitely want to have an account in your individual name as well, not in the name of the trust. But if you're married, I think you're okay. I think it kind of depends on your domestic situation at the time. But if the challenge, of course, is if your spouse is maybe facing some medical or cognitive issues, you might want to protect yourself and get an account in your own name for that reason. But not necessarily from an estate planning standpoint. That would not be a need that I mean, again, I'm not giving estate planning advice, and your situation could be very different, but generally speaking, your joint account when you're married is fine.
That makes sense because everyone's personal situation is a little bit different. And so it's not a one size fits all
Right.
easy response. Another question we got was from Lisa, your thoughts, and I don't know what these are, Fisher investments.
Fisher, yeah. My thoughts on, yeah, they're a very large investment house. You see their ads on television. They are fiduciaries, or they claim to be. You can get the same kind of relationship in a smaller, maybe more local relationship. Just make sure the firm itself is an RIA, Registered Investment Advisory, RIA. So while I don't have anything bad to say about Fisher, it's just, it's huge. It's a huge corporation. So I don't have an opinion about them specifically. My understanding is, though, that they are fiduciaries.
All right, there's a lot of questions. And so I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them today because we do need to wrap at 2. But Chandra did include in the chat the Aging Academy website that has all of Darby's direct contact information. So you can certainly reach out to her. So if we didn't get to answer your question today, or you wake up in the middle of the night tonight and you think, oh, I should have asked, you'll have her contact information so you can ask those questions. Darby.
There are 2 questions here that I want to speak to very quickly. I haven't seen all of them, but Sandra, you're asking about fiduciaries, care managers, move managers, et cetera, financially reasonable for the average senior or more aimed at the wealthy senior. Here's the reality. These people are aimed at all seniors, okay? And if you aren't a wealthy senior, that doesn't mean you may not need their services. You may not need a caregiver every day, but maybe a caregiver once a month or, twice a month. And that's certainly affordable. You might not need the senior move manager to come and move your entire house, but you might need someone to just come help you with the garage. So there is, a budget for everyone. So, and they're available for everyone, regardless of what your budget is. So please don't feel that these are just for wealthy people. They are not. These are not super expensive, out of range services. Okay, Sandra, I hope I made you feel better about that. And then the one right before that, I think it's something about a bank. Do banks limit the time they will recognize a power of attorney? My mother's for da, 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 da. Yeah, some financial institutions can drive you nuts, and they will only recognize a power of attorney that's however old, 30 days at sometimes. So you want to make sure that you deal with that institution. Sometimes they have their own form. Like, say, my daughter's my power of attorney, they'll say, that's great, but you got to sign this. So make sure you reach out to your financial relationship and say, hey, I want my daughter to be my power of attorney. What do you need from us? And they're going to send you a form. And hopefully they will then put you on a tickler to have it updated when their internal control seems to think it needs to be updated. But that's a very good question, an important one. Thank you for that, Stephanie. But yeah, I guess I don't have time to read them all, but in any case.
And that's okay. So put your questions in here because we do record the chat. And so that is feeding us some great information in terms of what does our 2025 agenda look like? Because we are looking at bringing Aging Academy back in 2025. As I mentioned earlier, this is the last session for 2024. But have no fear, we will be back. But also we have been recording each of these sessions, including today's session. So this recording will be up on the Aging Academy website within the next 24, 48 hours. Give us a little bit of grace because we are working with technology and Tampa Bay has had its fair share of challenges. We do hope to have Darby back in 2025, and we're always looking for ideas about what kind of information is going to help you in your caregiving journey or even preparing for your own care as a solo ager. And so after today, go ahead, Darby.
Okay, this is so hard not to answer these questions. Catherine, good question. Okay. May an individual change their power of attorney? Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you're competent, over 18, you can change these documents. That's why you plan for the here and now. If you want your daughter as your power of attorney, but then she goes crazy, then fine. Yep, get a new power of attorney. No problem. As long as you're able to, you can change it anytime.
And that goes for all your documents. Make sure they're updated. If you did them 10 years ago, it's probably time to, blow the dust off of them, take a look, and make sure everything is still accurate, and update as needed. All right. So now, because Darby wants to share everything.
I gotta stop.
Darby has so much great information. We love her for that. And so, as I mentioned before, you can reach Darby. All of her contact information is on the Aging Academy page. We're going to follow up with an email later today for everyone who participated in today's session that's going to have all of the resources that we mentioned and then some. So you'll be ready and raring to go, maybe even come up with some new questions. And hopefully you've got some great new information and resources to help you better plan for your future or the future of someone you're caring for. I don't want to take up any more of people's time. It looks like it's 2:00. Darby, thank you so much. This has been an amazing series. This is the first year that AARP Florida has sponsored Aging Academy, and we could not be happier. And we are looking forward to continuing this great collaboration in 2025. And big thanks to everyone who's been joining us, whether this was your first session or sessions that the 9th session, 10th session that you've attended. We do appreciate your support. Because you are attending and because you are watching those recordings, that is giving us the ammo that we need so that we can continue this wonderful collaboration. So big thanks to everyone. We look forward to seeing you at future AARP events and future Aging Academy sessions. Thank you.